Hello, Wednesday night crew. So happy to have you on the CCA podcast, at least part of you anyway. We're missing some people, but I thought that this would be a fun way to talk about coaching with the group because we had so much fun and I really appreciate the time we spent together. So we'll start with just introducing you, who you are, what's important for you to tell our audience about you. James, why don't we start with you and go from there?
Sure. My name's James Coolidge, and what is important about me? That is a mystery. But the thing I love to do is just get to know people, get to find out their story, what makes them tick, what motivates them, and what makes them want to sort of bring their courage and yet their authentic self into those spaces to be their best self as they go forward. So that's kind of what motivates me and excites me. And the way we normally do our Wednesday crew is we go on to the next person. So I'm going to pick Shawn. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks a lot, James. My name is Shawn O'Donoghue. I guess a common thread you could say that's run throughout my career is my passion for people and investing in people while cultivating the talent on the team. I have an inquisitive mindset, and I love to understand how people and teams and organizations can work as one to find success. And I'll pass it on to Scott.
Thanks, Shawn, and thanks, Natalie, for having us. I'm Scott, and I'd say the one thing about me is, you get into the coaching, you get into the coaching world, but, I'm always one to try to remember to have fun while doing it. You got to enjoy the process. You got to slow down sometimes. And, as a relatively new dad, I think that's the reminder that my kid gives me every day is like, it's okay to slow down a little bit. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, back to you, Natalie.
And expecting another little one too.
Yeah, February. Yeah, we're gonna be having another one. So two running around here soon enough, and it'll be good. We're looking forward to it.
Two little farm hands. Good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the opportunity here is to kind of let people know what brought you to this coach certification, to Canada Coach Academy. And share your experiences throughout the certification. So I guess if I start with one question, it would be, what brought you to coaching?
Well, I've heard of coaching a lot from people that have done their certification, but a lot of it was like that 24-hour, 48-hour coaching experience, and I didn't really see outcomes to what deliverables sort of noted. What brought me to Canada Coach Academy was Google. I went on Google, searched, and tried to find an organization that did more extensive training that was aligned to ICF certifications. And that's what brought me to Canada Coach Academy. There's actually a few of them that I questioned, and I interviewed their recruitment business development people. Canada Coach Academy did very well in the answers that I was asking, because I saw a lot of them were more focused on the transaction as opposed to the transformation of the coach and of the person. And I can say from my own experience coming into Canada Coach Academy, if it wasn't for the fact of the transformation, I would have probably not grown. I would still be back into giving advice, back in being the more stereotypical business coach of I know it all because I've got all this experience, as opposed to being a true coach and letting the person's strengths come to the surface. So for me, what brought me in and what I experienced was exactly what I was hoping, and that was transformation.
And a 5-star review, right, James?
Yeah, I got still do that 5-star Google review, and fortunately, I do have 3 Gmail accounts, so that's going to pop up and really pump up Canada Coach Academy. But anyway,
we are not soliciting 5-star reviews.
We're not soliciting, but folks, give us your reviews.
We're happy to have them, though. We're just not soliciting. No. But James, just to go back to the admissions team, our admissions, I have great pride in our admissions coaches. First of all, because they've all come through the program, so they're authentic about their love of coaching and their experience with coaching. So what was the difference for you, if there was one that you can pinpoint?
Well, Wendy was the one I was talking to at the very beginning, and I was giving her a lot of pushback because I was pretty cynical and a little bit jaded at that point. I had gone through Probably 4 other business people who were trying to convince me that I needed them, and there was really nothing that substantiated why. They couldn't answer that question, and so I was even challenging some of their points on their websites, and they were just into justification mode. And it's like, well, that's a wonderful doctrine if you're a theologian, but it doesn't really help when you want to be a coach. And so Wendy just listened, and she created space. Like, she coached me through the process even. And it wasn't pushy, it wasn't salesy, it was just matter of fact. And at the end of the day, it's like, James, you need to choose the journey you want to go on. What's the best fit for you? But here's what Canada Coach Academy provides. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. And so just the way she gently guided me through the process, literally after the phone call, I was like, yeah, I'm in. But I wanted to still take 24 hours, 48 hours, because impulsive control is not one of my strengths. But looking at that was, how do I stay in that space and really, discover and learn more? And maybe I didn't ask all the questions I should have, because she convinced me fairly quickly without convincing me
It
to
sounds like you
put that
convinced
in.
yourself.
Yeah, I convinced myself as she asked me questions. I walked right through the door. So yeah.
Good. Well, thanks for sharing that. How about you, Shawn? What brought you to Canada Coach?
I think my journey goes back a little bit further. For one, I was friends with Natalie way back in CEGEP. We were in Champlain together, and obviously after CEGEP, our paths went in different directions, and never really thought about coaching until around 2019. I changed my relationship with food and lost a lot of weight, and I got passionate about like podcasts and helping other people, and came across Natalie on LinkedIn and saw what she was doing, and was really intrigued and impressed with all that the results that she was showing, and things she was talking about. So I reached out to her proactively to talk about one of the coaching courses, and then of course COVID hit, so then that put everything into like pause world. And then in November I was part of some of the recent layoffs in tech, and like came back on and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to reach out to Natalie. There's an opportunity for me here now to invest in myself and my career. So very similar to James, I didn't know what to expect when I called Natalie, but I thought there would be a lot of like, this is what our course is, and I wouldn't say a hard sell, but I thought there would be a little bit more selling. And I remember she was on a train coming back from Toronto, and we just had a conversation, and there was questions about what I wanted, what the 3 different programs were, and just asking me questions about myself, and thinking like a little bit like James, I was almost being coached in a positive way. And then when I left, I really felt good about our conversation, and then reached out to the team and to get more information on how to sign up and those things. So it was a bit long time coming, but really glad I went through it, and was a great experience as well.
Yeah, I remember that conversation coming back from Toronto on the train. That was good. Yeah, I'm really happy that you ended up choosing, to come to our academy. And Scott, what brought you?
Yeah, so I had an opportunity to look at some leadership development from the organization that I work with. And I came across like the coaching world a little bit with some coaching that I received from a colleague, and they recommended Canada Coach Academy. So I looked at it and dived in, and one thing that really stuck with me was something that Natalie, you mentioned, maybe like first or second week, but like it was, you have to coach yourself first. And then, James, you hit the nail on the head when you said like the transformation. And I go back to that, like, the admissions team and the conversation that we had, and it just felt right from the start. And, I definitely had to coach myself first to even get to this point. And, I think we can continue the conversation, but it got so far as, I've started my own business through this, and, I'm kind of two feet in now, right? Where I was, maybe even on the fence throughout the course. So it's been an exciting transformation for sure. Yeah.
So speaking of transformation, and I love what you're all talking about here, what's changed for you since you've completed this program not so long ago? I think it's been 2 weeks since we finished the exec program together. So what's changed for you since the beginning, like since you first week 1?
I think for me, it was like my confidence level. It even goes back to a conversation I had with a client about even just my rate. you know, it was a conversation about like, you know, what's your rate and why? And because I was confident about that, there was no questions. And I think that's even a conversation we had in one of our classes. But I'd say like me 26 weeks ago would have been like, well, you know, it's this because this, but like, you know, I'm happy to give you like a discount and maybe we can work at do this. And, you know, that's just not there anymore. And yeah, definitely the confidence level. So if I was to pinpoint one thing for sure.
And you also incorporated a business.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah. The confidence level was like wavering. So I like drove myself to the registry. I got to do this now. Let's go.
That's great.
That's good.
I think for me, it's my hair color, a few more grays, lost a few hairs on top. So that's definitely a change. But I've also seen how just approaching people differently. And it's interesting they even see that I now approach people with questions, which I actually enjoy because I enjoy exploring their journeys and I enjoy exploring their passion. So that actually excites me a lot. I would say also, and it links back to even your podcast, and I'm not sure where this might fit in, but the one that's last week's or this week's, but looking at just the whole thing where you have to be okay to not get it perfect. And that I really struggle with that because as I mentioned in a earlier one of our cohorts is I really fear messing up. When you go into that intimate, almost sacred space of a person's life, to lead them in a path that could cause injury or harm. But it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from those mistakes and to grow from those. And so being so preoccupied with getting it right, I found I wasn't also showing up as my authentic self. And so I would say from the beginning where I would just give advice to learning to ask questions to how do I play in that space and be okay if the audio that I send to my coach mentor isn't perfect. In fact, the next one I'm going to be sending is disastrous because I couldn't figure out how to bring in a goal. Like it just wasn't forming at all. And I look forward to it. It's like, here's my disastrous session. I need some advice. I need some mentoring in the space so I can grow. So getting out of that, I've got to get it right to I can do better. And I think it was you, Natalie, in one of your courses where you said, yeah, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes better. And so that getting that ingrained in my head has given me more confidence in that space of coaching as well.
And I mean, for me, like, I guess how I work with people changed a lot on my active listening, my ability to really give space to people, and you know, allow them to tell their stories and be really comfortable with the long pauses. So not really feeling like I had to fill time in, which was something that you know we all as a group worked hard on. But I find it was one of those skills I really had to master, and it enabled me then to shift out of that consultancy or advisory position that I had been in for so many years. So allowing you know the pause to be filled by the people I'm working with and having them just find those answers is really something that I'm happy that you know we worked on and changed in me, and it's changed in my like how I have my relationships, working relationships, and all those aspects of things. So I think it's been great. And then one other thing too, from like the exercise we did, finding that I'm very more connected to my values, making value-based decisions. So a lot of what we worked on and our own internal coaching of finding out like what's important to us, what's our mission, our vision, what drives us is really getting then back to what's important and the values that we hold on to. And that brings just a lot of more, I don't know, I guess happiness in my life and some of the things and how I make my decisions. So overall, like really just a great experience on improving my skill set, and then hopefully following Scott and opening a business one day soon.
Well, that's so good to hear, you know, what you've gotten from the program and what's changed. And it actually leads me to the question of, you know, what was the most surprising thing about coaching to you? Because a lot of people don't know really what coaching is. They think it's mentoring or advice or consulting. And a lot of people come into the program having to kind of unlearn some things that they were assuming or preconditioned to do. What, if anything, stood out to you? Like, was there a moment where you're like, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, that's interesting in the program?
I'll say to, like, if I was to sum up what was really surprising to me is that as coaches, you focus on the person and not the situation, right?
Mm,
So that was a big piece there that was interesting, right? And even in my current role right now, there's something that we call like action learning coaching, and it's all about the situation. And I'm like, man, I'm just seeing how not effective this is now. Like I can't even do it anymore. It's weird.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, the person, focus on the person. I thought that was, surprising. Which makes sense, right?
yeah, well, yeah, the person is that's where the biggest opportunity is, right? It's the lens that they see the situation through, not the situation itself. Yeah.
I'm trying to allow for that pause. And for those that are listening, it's that pause of lingering and allowing the person to think and then speak. So no, this podcast has not ended. We're just lingering in silence. And I would say that's one of the things that's hard for me is I love to fill the silence. I love to talk. That pause and that silence disrupts me. And I want to give advice. I want to give directions like, oh, it's so clear and obvious of what you need to do. And I want to step into that space and start providing advice from my expertise and experience and wealth of knowledge and beliefs and values. But that's not helpful. And that's one thing that we learn. And so again, that big shift when that light bulb came up, that I need to be still and silent. I need to ask, again, better questions, more open questions that allows that person to go down deep into themselves, to pull those values and to pull that knowledge and that wisdom, those experiences to the front to address some of the challenges and barriers that they're facing or their goals of what they want to achieve. And how much more of a benefit that is for them when that, again, that intrinsic motivation comes up from the inside out. So that was huge for me. But it is funny because of the organization that I work with, and we'll see if any of them listen to this. But is I get noted as my Puritan coaching now, because a lot of what we do is still sort of that coach approach, but giving still the guidance and sort of the business acumen and some of the technical aspects of leadership and business coaching. And so I'm noted as my Puritan coaching now, and as I try to approach with that open mind and clean language. So it's a bit of a challenge for me to again stay in that space and know when I am permitted to stay in that space and when I actually still need to sort of honor the expectations of the organization I work with. So it's again finding that balance of taking these new learnings and applying it and where it's appropriate to based on expectations.
I don't know if either of you left me much to talk about, but definitely, yeah, coaching the person and not the problem, I think was a big one. And I know Scott focused on that one. And I guess it connects to James's point is like in my early sessions when I was working with people, I was really quick to jump, on the first thing that they would say and be like, okay, that's what we're gonna, that's what we're gonna fix. And that's, let's set a goal and go deep into that, as opposed to pausing, reflecting, asking the person, is there more you'd like to say about that? Or can you tell me more about that? Tell me more. And all of a sudden getting more to the root of certain challenges or beliefs or assumptions that they were making. And just the power of some of those simple questions, and then giving space for someone to speak and watching them then just open up and have the answers that they were looking for, just by building that trust relationship with them. So I was really not that I ever doubted coaching. It was always something that I was interested in, but just so rewarding to see that, through trust and some questions, you just empower someone and watch them grow right in front of your eyes. So that was one of those things that I was surprised with, but like just I walked away with so impressed with it all.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think there's also some parts where I was cynical, right? So I can remember listening to the one session when the person was going, and where do you feel that in your body? And I thought, oh my word, come on, like let's get practical, let's get real here. And I was so judgmental, I was so cynical, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's actually research evidence that is about that's called a somatic approach. It's like, okay, who's the ignorant fool now? but I thought, okay, here we go. We're all going to go in for the big hug and just tell me where you feel it in your body, and we're all going to make everything better. And so I was very cynical. And I remember challenging you, Natalie, like, does this even fit? Like, what is this? And you just asked some questions, and you just waited, because it was going to come up 3 weeks later where I'd be reading the research paper on it and being the fool and going, oh my word, like, this is actually real. I got to start practicing it. And then when I tried it for the first time with a professional executive, and thinking, I'm going to throw it out there, see what happens. And he literally connected and was like, that's a really good question. I think I feel it. And all of a sudden it opened up a whole experience for him, and helped him bring himself again into that situation. And so, yeah, there's so many things that we learned through this. Like, it's almost like each week another door got opened. And it's like, oh, that can't be real. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that is real. And then the next week. And so it was a total transformational journey. So come in with as a cynic or come in with an open mind, it doesn't really matter. Eventually you got to get to an open mind, because a cynic will not do well in this. But just be curious and explore and experience the transformation of this program. It was amazing.
That's a great example. The other one that I think a lot of people kind of struggle with is the clean language approach. It's a little bit awkward at first, it's not really how we speak. And so,
get that bar of soap, stick it in your mouth, because obviously you're using bad language.
yeah. And then the why
Childhood
versus
traumas.
that one also gets a lot of traction from people who have been using the why questions their entire lives, and then realize all of a sudden, oh wow, yeah, that does bring up feelings of defensiveness and fight, flight, or freeze, and justification and focus on the past, and all those things that we don't want to do in coaching. We want to bring them into a safe, open mind space. So what I'm feeling here, which I felt the entire time we're together, I think since day one, is camaraderie and this relationship that you cultivated in this class with the others. We were a group of, I think, was it 10? And I'm wondering, like, I don't get to see a lot of your interactions as the facilitator. I see you in the class, but then there's the peer coaching aspect, and there's the coach exchanges in the community, and then, and the things that you can attend in the community to supplement your learning. So what would you say about that peer connection and the community around you at Canada Coach Academy?
For myself, I'm actually just jumping more into the community now, because I was spending more of my time just within our own cohort and getting to know them and doing different exchanges with them as far as different assignments and projects that we worked on together. So I'm just now starting to explore the greater global village. Once in a while, I've thrown some random comments on or liked things and hearted things, but there is a wealth of knowledge there that I'm excited to explore and discover and make some new connections there.
How was the peer exchanges for you? Like, can you talk a little bit about how that added to the learning?
Well, one, I didn't feel like I wasn't so far behind. It's like everyone was kind of in the same boat. So there's a motivation there that we're all kind of learning together and trying to overcome some habits that aren't helpful in coaching, and learning from each other in those spaces. So I would say for me, that was definitely an advantage and a benefit. Yeah. How about you other guys?
I mean, I love when we had like the breakout sessions and the different group works where we interacted with each other and obviously got to learn more about each other, but there was also this sense of like jumping in with 2 feet. So you had to create that really quick bond or trust feeling with someone, because you only had a window of this amount of time. And I remember with Scott, like learning quickly, like, oh, there's this hockey passion and this thing, and then we were able to build on that relationship right off from the start, right? So just those kind of moments where you were vulnerable and had to be vulnerable quickly, but you were supported, and the trustworthy aspects of things there. So that was really something that you came back to the next week's class and felt that much better and more confident, because all of us were kind of going through this transformation together. And then the support in some of the other groups, like let's say the village itself, like I worked a lot, communicated with Jen, like who's someone that was kind of a support teacher, I think, it's in the role. I don't want to make a mistake, but like just some of the exercise or activities I did outside of class with her to help understand my mission, or feedback on how the coaching was, some of the sessions that she'd seen, or things like that. Again, just a great resource where it feels like, I guess the anecdote was, it takes a village to raise the baby, but like, it's that whole feeling of everyone's in it and everyone is supporting everybody to build up this community. It's not a competitive environment. It's we all want, everyone wants everyone to succeed. So I felt very comfortable in it from day one. Scott?
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned the comfortability. I felt like it was comfortable right from the start, and it was something that I wanted to dive into. And just like James, like it almost felt like the more you dive into it, the more there is, the more value you get out of it. So, even having the option to stay in it for like after the course is so nice, because there's just so much there for coaches that it's I sound like a salesman now, but like it's truly it's so helpful. Like and I like back to what Shawn was saying about the cohort, like we almost coach each other through you definitely do, right? But then there's just this whole like layer of trust because of that, and you just saw that grow throughout the weeks, so much so that I'm traveling to Toronto for work, but I'm trying to figure out how to see some of our some of the cohort when I go, right? Like you just become like really good friends, and I think that's just there's nothing better than that, really. So yeah.
Yeah,
If you need a place to stay, I got 2 beds, so you're good to go.
Perfect.
we have people in our community who've been talking for years since their cohorts. Like I had one of our students come to Montreal last weekend. I met him for coffee. Like it's fun to be able to keep those connections going, and I can see how the relationships build over time, which is kind of really fun. It was an added bonus to the community that I wasn't even predicting at the time. So what's next for you? People want to know, what are you going to do with your coaching certification? Like, what's the plan, and how do you plan to, use the knowledge that you've learned so far, since it is a continuous journey?
I think the biggest thing for me, like the obvious, is a new business. But even if I wasn't starting a new business, there's times where like I'm seeing so many situations through a coaching lens that I actually have to like be transparent to that person, like I'm putting on a coaching hat right now. And then you like ask these questions because it does sound different, right? They're like, what? Like what's happening? So what's next for me is to really just like continue to see the situations in the world through that lens. There's nothing been more transformational in my life than that. Like you truly are seeing like, someone's explaining a problem on the bus, and I'm just like, I wonder what they want to get out of this session in the next 60. You're asking yourself coaching questions and you don't even know the person. So yeah, like really just like diving into it more. And I think like back to the resources that we have through the village, really just accessing those as you continue to coach, because now that I really like how you said it, like there's almost never a perfect coaching session, but the perfection in so many of us is we want that perfect coaching session. So we just continue to want to be better and better every day, for our clients. So yeah, I think that's, in simple terms, I just want to become a better coach.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, I'd say, I guess next for me it would be, to continue to finish the process of being certified, so complete the course in itself and in the ICF certification aspects of things, and like just work on the skills. It's interesting the way Scott was explaining with the lens. Like I had a session today with a former colleague. We've known each other over 10 years, and then during the session, she kept saying like, "It's a really good question. Well, why weren't you asking me questions like this before, Shawn?" So like this kind of discovering this new way of working with people and asking questions has just been really enriching. So again, building on those skills, and then hopefully opening up a business, whether it's something small to start with, but really being able to get out there and just help people along the way. It's just been a great addition to like the tool set I already have, but do feel it's more the tool I want to use all the time and less doing another role where it's something I use once in a while. So really, it was one thing everyone coached me 100 times in our sessions of like, what's the worst that could happen if you open a business and it doesn't work, Shawn? And just like, okay, it's something I've really got to put myself out there and give it a go. So hopefully that is one of the outcomes. James.
Great. Well, for me, coming into the academy, I was actually just starting a whole transition of career move. So I was leaving the nonprofit executive leadership, working for a for-profit firm that does leadership development, executive coaching, and all sorts of things. And so in that space, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I would say I'm still myself personally in a little bit in that space. I know my long-term future as I sort of look at what is my sort of retirement plan is I would love to be sitting with people and leaders and coaching them, whether they can afford it or not, just to be in that space and providing that resource for people to untap their potential. So that's sort of my hope long-term. In between is just getting better, and so that I actually can be the person asking those deep questions that evokes awareness and helps them find their passions or find their way of working through barriers and overcoming their fears. And so, yeah, that's kind of my next steps is exploring and staying curious as to where does this take me next. And as I grow deeper into the more Puritan scope of coaching, what does that look like? Leveraging clean language and helping people identifying where they feel their feelings and what moving from what they think to what they know, and all those areas of leveraging their skills, their strengths, and their experiences.
I really love the way that you've all kind of expressed a change in yourself and what you're noticing. I think the biggest part of coaching is evoking awareness, this raising awareness to increase our impact, right? And of course, our mission is to multiply the impact of coaching in the world through you all. So that, it fits, and it sounds really good to hear that you're coaching others and making a difference. And so I wonder about, where do you see the biggest opportunity for coaching in like the world? I mean, you're each in different worlds, you're each in different parts of the world. I mean, we didn't talk about that, but I think James, you're in the Toronto area. Shawn, you're in California, right?
Oh, yeah.
Scott, you're out west, Alberta, is it?
Yep, Southern Alberta.
Yeah. So what do you see from all your different perspectives as the biggest opportunity for coaching, whether it's a sector or a part of your life? I don't know, like, where is that biggest opportunity?
See, for me, it's with some of these leaders that have been leading in a way that don't know how to lead in any other way. And so I think coaching really creates a fresh awareness, helps them put on a different lens to see their own work, to see their own responsibilities and their own opportunities, and asking them questions that they wouldn't necessarily naturally take to reflect when they're in systems thinking or linear thinking, process thinking, and they're kind of locked into that way of thinking. They don't know, and this is actually one of the research articles we did on executive function, they don't know how to shift in shifting environments, and in the competitive landscape also shifting, they don't know how to shift their approaches. So I feel that coaching is going to create a great opportunity to help some of these leaders make wise strategic decisions to create sustainable and vibrant workplaces.
Yeah, leadership is a powerful place for coaching.
And I could add to that a little bit, in Southern Alberta for sure, but I'm sure like in other areas of the world too, you're seeing a lot of that like burnout in middle managers from, just so many different pieces, and, possibly, frontline workers not being readily available. So then the managers are stepping into those roles and more and more. So I think that's like where you might see, some of the best opportunities. Like I've seen that so far in terms of like who I'm coaching. But yeah, like that's, definitely one opportunity that I think that coaching can definitely have a value to, for sure.
Middle management.
And I mean, I think for me, obviously the group I'm working with the most is former colleagues in tech, and I see one of the big things with coaching in tech is just helping with people with confidence. There's a lot of imposter syndrome, no matter how long they seem to be there, whereas like talking about their successes. There isn't much failures, and helping coaching them to really be aware of what they have to offer and how well they've done. I think that would be one area that I could definitely go into. But if I was to go to my passion, I think I studied, I was a school teacher, primary school teacher eons ago. And I think, if I was to specialize, I'd love to work with that adolescents group, really helping them find their passion and purposes in life, and answering questions they had through our exercises that we did in this course. I discovered that if there was someone like that in my life, there would have been a lot of bumps in the road that I may have avoided along the way. So I think that would be my ultimate passion, is to work with adolescents, but I can see the value in tech world and working with people who have like imposter syndrome.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the exercises we do in the program is the mission statement. Do you each remember your mission statements? Do you have them?
Will, if I look it up.
It's supposed to be right here, James, in your heart.
I gotta frame it on my wall so I can point to it.
Oh. Shawn, do you remember yours?
Was to create a nurturing environment that allows adolescents or people, depending on what I was aiming for, to find their purpose and passion in life, and excel in life. It's something along. So I know it better, but it was close to that.
And even worse, it's like the tagline to my business, and I can't even remember it. What a time! Eh?
Go to the website.
Yeah,
Pull yourself.
It's to create an enjoyable space where people build self-confidence so that they can achieve goals and passions that they once thought were impossible. Yeah.
I love it.
Ingrained now. It's there forever.
In mine, I post in the Global Village. So when listeners become students of Coach Academy, then you can look it up.
Nice.
It's posted. So go check out the global chat. You'll find it there.
Check out that classroom.
That should be one of the perks of the program now. You get to see James Coolidge's mission statement.
It is. If that doesn't draw you into the program, I don't know what else will. Like, really.
So we're running kind of close to time. I want to respect, each of your schedules. So I'm wondering, at the end of our program, we have an opportunity to share one thing that you would put on a billboard if you had the chance, that you would want everyone to know about coaching. And I did steal that from Tim Ferriss, by the way, because that's how he ends his podcast. So just disclaimer, but I love the question, and it's been in our program for a while now. And so do you want to share this opportunity to spread that word?
Mine was a very it was just giver, which means go get it. Just get it done. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Just try it. Go for it. So Shawn, that's you now. You're not going to wait for it to be perfect. You're next, business owner.
Yeah.
Mine was you are worthy, and it came from the idea of reminding us that we all have value and deserve good things in life, just the way we are, right? So just remember that we are worthy of good things.
Yeah.
And I'm in that same camp. I can't remember at all what I originally put, but I would say discover your unleashed potential. See a coach today. Because I do think that's when I look at our own cohort and how when we were coaching each other, I would say each time there's new discoveries that we had as we allowed others to give us questions that allowed us to go deep. So, and it just made us better people through it all. And brothers and sisters of family, we're connected now for a long haul. So it's good. Coaching did that, folks. Coaching.
Don't forget the beautiful environment of the community.
Absolutely. And we also got to see Natalie's office and her window and the various changes of the seasons. It was just a wonderful time to connect.
Yeah, it's true. You did see the changing seasons.
We saw the lawn guy, and we saw the dogs, and we saw it was just wonderful.
We saw the real life. That's true.
Oh.
Unedited. This is unedited. This is what we get. But I just want to say thanks so much for doing this and for what you brought to the program and to your cohort in particular was just so fun. And you know, I wish the others were here too, but I'm happy to have had this time with each of you to just talk about, you know, what you got from this, and hoping that, you know, if anyone's listening that is thinking about it, that they can, you know, hear from others, not from me, but from others, just what this can be for. And it's all, and I guess maybe you would all agree, it's all a very individual path, right? There's no, it's not like a line that we all form together. You're each walking your own path. You start at different places and bring different experience to the table. So I think that's also kind of neat, is how you all walk your own path and then connect and you know, and check in. Yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting us, Natalie. It was a lot of fun. See everyone and connect again. It felt like the Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It is Wednesday night, but it felt the crew is back.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Shawn. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, James.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, Natalie, I'm so glad we had this time together just to laugh or maybe sing a song. But before you know the time has even started, it's the time we have to say so long. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.